Good morning. It is my pleasure and privilege to welcome you to this online worship service of the Unitarian Universalist congregation in Surprise, Arizona. The date is May 24th, 2020. Whether you have been a member of our congregation for a long time, or you are a first-time visitor, or you're somewhere in between, we are glad you are here. We welcome you warmly as fellow travelers on the journey toward a more meaningful life. If you are a first-time visitor, I would encourage you to visit our website at uusurpriseaz.org for more information about us. And if you would like to receive communications from us, please email Catherine Pebick, our church administrator, at uucsaz2@gmail.com to be added to our email list. Catherine will need your full name and email address, and our contact information, which I just gave you, is also available on our website. Our own Connie Yarmarkt will play our prelude this morning. It is L'Auguste by Carl Philipp Emanuel Bach, who lived from 1714 to 1788.
Volunteer teaching is a work of heart. Today, I want to celebrate our children's religious education volunteer teaching team. Although I do all that I can to make the job easier, these volunteers are still required to prepare, occasionally write, teach, and guide our children through lessons of Unitarian Universalism. They volunteer their time, they share their knowledge, and they care about the spiritual education of our children. For this, I give you my heartfelt thanks. Because of their commitment to helping our children learn about Unitarian Universalism, they get to have fun spiritual education classes each Sunday morning. Without all of you, this wouldn't be possible. So I would like to recognize the following. My teachers, Sharon Beard, Joan Carlson, Claudia Chezik, Michael Gentry, Darnell Kirksey, Darrell Lawrence, Nikki Patterson. My assistants, Emily Bell, Mary Beth Crest, Berta Chezik, Sandy Farber, Brooke Gaunt, Monica Gentry, Carl Huck, Amanda Lauer, Susan Lee Walling, Amy St. Peter, Sally Thomas, and Joy Throm. And even though they are paid, I also want to thank my preschool staff for their dedication. Artemis Diaz, Nathan Grauer, and Jack Lawrence. Thank you.
Our first reading today comes from Australian-German author Markus Zusak, who wrote, "In years to come, he would be a giver of bread, not a stealer." Proof again of the contradictory human being. So much good, so much evil, just add water. Comedian George Carlin said something I may start using as a blessing. May the forces of evil become confused on the way to your house. Finally, this encapsulation of the essence of his work from English novelist Charles Dickens. I hope that real love and truth are stronger in the end than any evil or misfortune in the world. I think I ask too much from life. Because I am often dissatisfied with life as it is, I don't like the fact that life comes only with conditions, that the only way we have life at all is on the condition that it will be taken away from us at some point. The same is true of youth, vitality, and the people we love. Those are all wonderful gifts while we have them, and life will certainly take them back, take them away from us. Within each of our lives, there is also the reality of a relentless mixture of good and bad, joy and sorrow. As I was thinking about this sermon, the penultimate line from Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's poem, "The Rainy Day," came to me. Into each life, some rain must fall. This is the entire poem, written in 1842. The day is cold and dark and dreary. It rains, and the wind is never weary. The vine still clings to the moldering wall, but at every gust the dead leaves fall, and the day is dark and dreary. My life is cold and dark and dreary. It rains, and the wind is never weary. My thoughts still cling to the moldering past, but the hopes of youth fall thick in the blast, and the days are dark and dreary. Be still, sad heart, and cease repining. Behind the clouds is the sun still shining. Thy fate is the common fate of all. Into each life some rain must fall. Some dark days must be dark and dreary. I do not like even the reality Longfellow describes of a little rain now and again. I appreciate Longfellow's optimism. I'm pretty optimistic myself. But even this sad poem seems too sunny. It does not seem to take on the truly devastating tragedies human beings endure, along with the minor disappointments of a few rainy days, literal and metaphorical. For most people sometimes, and some people most times, life is a deluge of awfulness. Earlier this month, we talked about unwelcome events that happen randomly, without intention. We also talked about the hardships and hurts that are caused by evil human intentions and actions. Intentional evil and random misfortune both hound us, charging into our lives to snarl and bite at what could otherwise be continuously happy lives. Just as confusingly, joys leap in unexpectedly to rescue us from utter devastation. Why is it that the same nature that gives us magnificent wonders also gives us hurricanes, earthquakes, and the coronavirus? That the same physical body that gives us pleasure also gives us pain? I wish we had a more consistent reality, consistently good, not just for me, but for everyone. Maybe like most people, I spend a lot of energy hoping for a more uniformly good life. I don't want life to send us the best circumstances and then ruin them, tossing us from joy to sadness. I'm tired of feeling that we, some much more than others, are the universe's playthings, punching bags, or jokes, subject to its whims, luck, and randomness. To use the title of the book by Dan Cryer about the life of UU minister, the Reverend Forrest Church, I am particularly displeased with the reality of being alive and having to die. How are we supposed to live like this when our lives are alternately wonderful and terrible, all mixed up together with no way of disentangling them? How are we supposed to make lives of meaning from this uncertain, inconsistent life, which for no reason can throw us the most unmerited ecstasies, and in the next moment or the next year, the most devastating pain? How are we supposed to live in a world where good abounds, but evil does too, where both good and evil live in everyone's heart, so that either cruelty or kindness may be done, will be done in one moment and not the next, where intentional evil and random unlucky hardship lie in wait as much as good ones around the next corner, ready to snatch us from a bright path or push us further into suffering. Our sister city of Glendale was the scene of the most recent gun violence this past Wednesday night. According to ABC News, the suspect in a mall shooting in Arizona told detectives he wanted to injure 10 people and hoped to gain respect after being bullied earlier in life, police said Thursday. Armando Hernandez Jr., 20, also told authorities he'd scoped out the scene, went back to his car to retrieve his weapon, and loaded 3 rifle magazines to capacity, according to Glendale Police Sergeant Randy Stewart. 3 people were shot at Westgate Entertainment District, an outdoor mall just down the road from us on the 101. All the victims were apparently unknown to the shooter. One victim, a 19-year-old man, was in critical condition as of Thursday, while the other 2, a 16-year-old girl and a 30-year-old woman, sustained non-life-threatening injuries, police said. All are expected to survive, thank goodness. In her sermon, What Do We Do with Evil?, the Reverend Carol Allman Morton says, there is, of course, a larger question, which is, why does evil exist? Rabbi Harold Kushner offers a way to look at the question of theodicy, which asks, if God is all-powerful, all-knowing, and all-good, why do bad things happen? For many Unitarian Universalists, this question has been answered by believing that there is no God at all. For those of us who believe that people are inherently good, though, there is a corollary question. If people are inherently good, why do we do so many bad things? Kushner focuses most on the bad things that can happen to us by seeming chance, like cancer or being hit by a car. And he spends some time on corporate evil, like the Holocaust. The question we should be asking, he says, is not, why did this happen to me? What did I do to deserve this? That is really an unanswerable, pointless question. A better question, he says, would be, now that this has happened to me, what am I going to do about it? I read last week about a grassroots organization called One Day Sooner. As of Wednesday afternoon, more than 24,000 people from around the world have, quote, volunteered to be exposed to the coronavirus to accelerate vaccine development. They range from students to medical doctors to military veterans. Co-founder Josh Morrison shared some of the many reasons people have felt compelled to sign up. I feel that this is such a clear and obvious choice for someone healthy and young, one volunteer wrote on an application displayed on One Day Sooner's website. Another stated simply, I'd like to be helpful. People also volunteer for religious reasons, to reduce economic damage, and, quote, so I don't look back on my time during this crisis as a complete waste, as one volunteer put it. There are serious ethical questions about allowing volunteers to be exposed to a disease that is potentially deadly, and for which there is no proven treatment. But the willingness of so many to risk their health and lives inspires me. Writing for Yahoo Sports, Tim Brown reports, her name is Leighton Accardo. She is 8. She's had some difficult days, enough of them to add up to a year. What with the surgeries and the treatments and all the serious conversations about what the tests show and what's next. She smiles a lot anyway, so you know. Lately, she's been making tie-dye shirts and painting rocks pretty colors. When she comes home, she'll get on her bike and follow her dad on his runs through their neighborhood. They always take videos of those, her dad and she running and riding and acting a little goofy, so they can send it to the people who need a little encouragement that day. Her dad's name is Jeremy. He is the assistant pitching coach for the New York Mets. He also lately is an expert third grade teacher, first grade teacher, and preschool teacher to Leighton's sister and 2 brothers, this being a time when other people are getting sick too. Her mom is Carly. Leighton and her mom have spent the past 3.5 weeks together in New York for the surgeries, also for more of those serious conversations. They're going to come home to Gilbert, Arizona at the end of the week. The doctors said it would be good for Leighton to be at home and comfortable. Maybe Jeremy will hit her some ground balls. She loves fielding ground balls. I hate that word, comfortable, Jeremy says. Sounds like we're giving up, and we're not. They're not. They call themselves Leighton Strong. There are a dozen or more friends, mostly guys who work with her dad. Their plan is to run the New York City Marathon on November 1st together under the Leighton Strong banner. Their plan is to have Leighton at the finish line, smiling, cheering, reminding them all that she told them they could do it, that all it took was a little courage and maybe a few Band-Aids. On text message threads, they send encouragement and share tiny victories, along with screenshots of that day's journey. They video themselves saying hi to Leighton, reminding her they're out there, asking her to keep fighting, telling jokes that maybe only they will laugh at. She sends back videos, always smiling. And that's enough, reminding them why they're out there. She's fighting, third base coach Gary DeSarcina, one of the runners, says. I'm feeling humbled and honored to put myself through the training for such an incredible little girl. It breaks our hearts, Luis Rojas says. But at the same time, the strength and personality that little girl has is amazing. Before, I had no purpose in my running. I was just trying to stay in shape. Next thing I know, with Leighton Strong, I'm like, hey, count me in. This is how we keep her present. A year ago on Mother's Day, Leighton was diagnosed with germ cell cancer. 9 surgeries have followed, 2 on her lungs recently. She has endured radiation and chemotherapy treatments. In between, she takes those bike rides. She plays ball in the backyard. She makes her mom and dad laugh until they cry. She would perhaps remind herself to keep going, to have fun, to smile, to go faster. This little girl who is going so hard, living so hard, she gathers the wind behind her, Brown writes. When her hair was going to give in to the chemotherapy, her baseball teammates shaved their heads in solidarity, in friendship. The NHL's Arizona Coyotes have had her to games and helped pay her way to New York City, where some of the fight must be. Justin Upton and his wife Ashley paid for a private jet for the most recent trip. The game, the people in it, they gather in the wind behind the little girl and her family. And when they run, it is not away. It is to the finish line, at the end of all those miles, where she will be. I think it just shows humanity is good, pitching coach and runner Jeremy Hefner says. With all the chaos going on, people are generally good. When there are like-minded people, good things can happen. We have this group of guys and they're all drawn to this 8-year-old girl. That's because of what she brings to the day. The conversations about the tests are serious again. Leighton's coming home soon. A year passes no one could have seen coming. Leighton's dad calls it a roller coaster, the only analogy he can think of, that lifts them all to the clouds and then takes their stomachs away. The ups, he says, the things you look forward to, the light at the end of the tunnel, and then almost immediately it gets slammed shut. But now, after this year, I think I'm a lot more grateful. There's 1,000 different things, but grateful is the most glaring one. Appreciative of the health people have, of my other 3 kids, and how in awe of my daughter I am. To go through this, her soul, every time she gets knocked down 7 flights of stairs, she looks up and smiles. She amazes him. She amazes them all. Her name is Leighton Accardo. She is 8. This part is going to be hard. Again, more of those kinds of days, more of that kind of fight.